and then I get insecure from all the pain. I'm so ashamed. I am beautiful, no matter what they say. Words can't bring me down. I am beautiful in every single way. Yes, words can't bring me down. Oh, no.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Patriot Nightcap. I have the pleasure of talking to this fine gentleman, Chris Baker, out of Oswego, Illinois.
Yeah.
And as you know, Patriot Nightcap premieres every Wednesday, Sunday at 8 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. Chris, you are a minister and you are a tattoo artist. And in speaking to you just a little bit before I started recording, you're telling me that you run a company called Inc. 180.
Correct.
And you were privy to a lot of gang violence in your youth out of Los Angeles. And then you got through that. You did a lot of prayer work, and then you created Inc. 180 to sort of dive into this hideous world of sex trafficking, to remove tattoos and help people move along out of that dark world. Tell us a little bit about yourself and sort of your arrival at what you do.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
Yes.
I'm a 50-year-old tattoo artist. I've been married 28 years to my amazing wife, Lisa, and we have 3 kids. I grew up in South Central Los Angeles. My parents were divorced when I was 13, and my dad fled the country, and we struggled mightily. I dropped out of high school when I was 15 to help support my mom and my little sister. And while I was never involved in the gangs, all my friends were. And I watched 17 of my friends die growing up in South Central LA.
Mm-hmm.
And the most recent of those was 16 years ago. And I said, that's it. I said, I wanted to get my family out of LA. I wanted a fresh start. I wanted a complete separation from that world. My wife, Lisa, is originally from Chicagoland, so we decided to move our family here. And I was struggling, going through a lot of turmoil in my life, a lot of untreated mental illness stuff from the trauma that I had seen, friends getting shot. And
these are dear friends of yours who...
Yeah. My best friend bled to death in my arms 16 years ago. And I never dealt with that because I grew up in a family where it was like, oh, suck it up. We don't do counseling. That's ridiculous. Just be a man. And anyway, I got some help. I found faith in my life at 38 years old. Completely started transforming my life from the inside out. And I wanted to use my faith to help other people, and really dove into prayer deep. And it took quite a little while. And the answer that I got to that prayer was, go out and do what you love to do more than anything, and do it for free for people that are trying to change their lives.
Right.
So we started Inc. 180 in 2011 to start removing and covering gang tattoos for people that were leaving that life and trying to make a positive change in their lives. About a year into that, I got a message from a friend of mine who's an agent with Homeland Security. And he's like, Chris, I love what you're doing. You should come and meet with our gang team. They would love to work with you. And I got really excited because I had been working with state and local authorities up to that point. And it was my first step into the federal law enforcement world. So he set up the meeting, and as I was driving up that day for the meeting, he called and asked if the trafficking team could sit in on the meeting. They wanted to hear what we were doing. I had no idea what sex trafficking was at that point. I thought he was talking about...
How long ago was this, Chris? How long ago?
This is 9 years ago now.
9 years ago. Okay.
Yeah. And so I went up, we did the meeting on the gang side of things. It took me about 30 minutes. It was the easiest partnership formation ever. And then I looked at the director of this trafficking team. I said, can you please tell me what the heck you're talking about? Because I have no idea. And he did. He spent about 2 hours just kind of giving me a very high level understanding of what sex trafficking looks like in this country and beyond. And then he started showing me pictures of these branding tattoos that these victims had. And it absolutely broke my heart in a few different ways. First, as you know, as a father, I have 3 kids.
Sure.
And they're showing me pictures of these kids that look like my kids and their friends. And it absolutely destroyed me. As a man, it infuriated me because men are the ones that are perpetrating this crime and keeping it going, right? By buying sex. So that made me sick. And on a different level that a lot of people don't really understand, as an artist and as somebody that's really passionate about the art of tattooing, it made me disgusted and sick that for the second time really in world history, the first of course being the Holocaust, I saw tattoos being used as something so disgusting and destructive and evil that, you know, at the end of this 2-hour meeting, this director looked at me and he goes, would you expand your ministry work to help get rid of these tattoos for these survivors? And I'm like, you could have asked me that 2 hours ago and I would have gotten one done by now. But we partnered with them right away. And then of course, you know, they told their friends at the FBI. The FBI told their friends at the State Department, and you know, so on and so on. So we built this amazing network of folks that we work with in federal law enforcement, state and local law enforcement, safe houses, other nonprofit organizations around the country. And we can travel around the country and do this work at the drop of a hat. That's
incredible. Are there other tattoo artists who do this as well? Are you sort of the go-to? And the name of your company is Inc. 180.
Inc. 180, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so as far as I know, we were the first ones to really kind of get into the world of trafficking to help cover up those and remove those tattoos. I want an organization similar to Inc. 180 in every city in this country and beyond, because this is a problem everywhere. There are other artists. We're trying to build a network. I go and speak at the tattoo conventions. I reach out to other artists all the time when I travel, because the tattoo industry has come a long way, especially in recent years. There's still kind of that back alley kind of tattoo shop out there, but by and large, the tattoo industry has shifted and there's a lot of people doing really incredible work in the community. And when people hear about this topic, you know, when they hear about sex trafficking, everybody thinks, man, what can I do? There's got to be something I can do to help fight.
Right.
So it's a really cool thing to be able to educate other artists and people that I look up to and try and build a network across the country.
Chris, so for my audience, how bad is this problem? I mean, you're boots on the ground as far as I'm concerned. You know, we can look at the statistics and it's a global, huge problem. And from what you see, like and I know you were just at the Super Bowl, right? You were working down there. Can you just tell us a little bit about that? Like, I love the boots on the ground stories. Because like the people who are really in the trenches working this, you know, I mean, we all kind of live our lives, we're in a bubble, but you're really in there. Tell us about that. Like, how bad is this problem? And what are some of the tattoos that you've seen that really disturbed you? I'm trying to really convey this to
paint a picture.
People who don't, paint a picture, so to speak.
Yeah. So it's a horrible problem. It's the fastest growing crime in the world, right? Statistically, they say there's 250,000 to 300,000 kids being trafficked in this country, and that's just minors. Okay, so we've got minors and adults being trafficked. You know, the average age that these kids start being trafficked is 13. We saw a lot of it going on, and you know, I've been to the Super Bowl. I think this was my 7th or 8th Super Bowl that I've been to do outreach work. This year, I was in Los Angeles. The last 2 weeks, I just got home late last night. I did 39 cover-up tattoos in 2 weeks. We were doing outreach at night, going out on the tracks, making contact with those that are being trafficked. We were working with law enforcement to go and search for these kids that are connected to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. We were going in and look at their social media profiles, trying to get information to give to law enforcement to go out and do their jobs and locate these kids. And They've located a lot of them already. I can't give out those numbers yet because that operation is ongoing through the end of next week. But it was significant. And I will say it was the most successful Super Bowl as far as recoveries that I've seen so far.
Right.
Law enforcement was very prepared out there. And it was sad to see. I saw kids as young. I think the youngest kid I talked to was 15. And they're brainwashed by their pimps to say, hey, if anybody comes and talks to you and they're not a buyer, you run, don't talk to them.
Oh,
And it's sad. They're so scared. And let's be honest. Okay. I am 6'4" with a shaved head, covered in tattoos.
Yes.
I don't outwardly look like the nicest guy on the planet. Okay. And I own that. But we're trying to help. We're giving them information on resources. And a lot of times, honestly, what they're doing is they're taking it and throwing it away because they don't want to be caught with it by their trafficker. I've been doing.
They're terrified.
They're scared, and rightfully so. When we're talking about pimps and traffickers, these are the worst, most insidious people on the planet.
Worst of the worst.
Oh my gosh, I've heard stories, and I thought I saw it all living in South Central LA as a kid. That was nothing. That was Disneyland compared to what I see with this trafficking world now. I had, before I left to go to the Super Bowl, I had a young woman in here, 19 years old. She was trafficked in Chicago for 4 years, recovered by the FBI. FBI victim specialist brought her in. She had a tattoo on the back of her neck. It was her pimp's name. And I'm covering. She wanted to cover it up, so I'm putting.
It's really branding. They're branding these children.
The thing is, I want to make sure people understand. When people typically hear the word branding, they think of like cattle, like with an iron. It's not that. It's tattoos. So when we talk about branding in relation to sex trafficking, they're tattooed as property. So we see things that say like property of so and so. We used to see, and we don't see them hardly anymore. We used to see more barcode tattoos. That has faded out, I think, because people have been educated like, hey, trafficking, barcode tattoos are a possible signal of trafficking. So we hardly see those anymore. We see a ton of gang symbols because gangs are trafficking now because they call it boomerang economics. They can go out and groom 10 or 15 kids, send them out every morning with a quota. They come back at night with that quota and give it to the gangs. They don't have to do anything. They sit in their house and drink all day and get high. And these kids are out there bringing them money back.
Oh my God.
So they call it boomerang economics. They send them out, they come back with money. This young woman I was doing the cover up for.
Beyond disturbing.
So it's on the back of her neck, and I'm sitting here and I'm talking with her and we're having a good conversation. I never ask them, hey, tell me about what it was like when you were trafficked. I don't want to trigger their PTSD, which they almost always have. But what happens, and it's really fortunate for us because we learn so much from our survivors. We're really blessed that they tell us a lot, and that's how we learn and how we educate other people. But I'm looking at her, lower on her neck as I'm covering this tattoo, and she has a huge like surgical scar. And I said, is this tattoo bothering the scar tissue? Is it hurt? Because going near scar tissue is more painful with tattooing. And she said, no, it's okay. And she said, yeah, I had surgery 6 months ago. And I was like, oh my gosh, how was that? Surgeries are rough. I had, recently had some too. Trying to kind of like without asking her. And she said, yeah, I had to have spinal fusion surgery because I came back one night and I hadn't made my quota. I missed it by $50 and my pimp broke a pool cue over the base of my neck and broke my vertebrae. And I was just like, I will sit here often covering or removing these tattoos, holding in tears because the stories that we hear are horrific. Like Hollywood could not write the stories that these survivors share with us. It's to the point where I see my counselor every time I cover or remove a trafficking tattoo. The next day I'm in my counselor's office to offload that because if I don't, I'm no good to anybody. I've become very hardened, very angry, and it's tough.
Desensitized probably from the stories. Yeah, no, that's a load to carry. And you're a minister.
I am, yeah. And it's cool because people are always like, oh, are you, do you like preach at them and tell them they need to find God? No, that's not how I roll. In fact, that's the opposite of how I share my faith with people. My idea with my faith is, first of all, we live in a country that has religious freedom, and I value that. In fact, I really appreciate that I get to meet people that aren't Christians that are very solid in their faith as well, whether they're Jewish or Muslim or, Buddhist or whatever. I enjoy learning about other people's faith. My thing is with faith is I want you to know how much I love Jesus by the way I treat you with respect and love,
Right.
and not judging anything that you tell me. So that's really what I base my faith in. I think that's really what people should always base whatever their faith is in, because that's the reason it took me so long to become a Christian is for 38 years, I had people trying to cram their religion down my throat, and it was very off-putting. So I choose to just love people like Jesus would and treat them like Jesus would, how I believe that would be. So yeah, I love it.
So what did you see working the whole Super Bowl, and what, where do we go from here? Like, how can people get involved just on a ground level? Like, I see you doing what you're doing. I give money to Operation Underground Railroad. I'm trying to create a platform over here within our Patriot movement. It really is very meaningful to me. And when Laura Vevers, your friend, told me, hey, I know this great guy, Chris, Inc. 180. I was like, what does he do? This is fascinating to me. So where do you think, where do we go from here? Like, is this just a tsunami that we are facing, and are we ever going to crawl out from under this? The boomerang economics, like, that's a new term that I haven't heard, and it makes me sick to my stomach.
Yeah, it does me as well. I'll tell you, I just turned 50 this year, and when I did, I really became very introspective, especially with this topic. I'm like, how do we get here? Because people are always saying, I speak in churches all the time, and people are like, we're gonna raise $1 million and open a safe house. I'm like, hang on, that's great if you know what you're doing, but if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to cause more damage than good anyway. There's something for everybody to do in this fight. People, when I speak in churches, the very last thing I say is, look, do not leave here. And same thing for people viewing this. Don't leave here and say, wow, what a great organization. That's so cool. What an interesting guy. I want people to go and really search their own heart and say, what do I have to offer in this fight? My biggest thing with trafficking is it's all about supply and demand. If there is no demand, there is no need for a supply. We need to have a change in culture in this country. We need to start raising our kids. We need to start raising our boys to appreciate women and girls as valuable partners in life, not some conquest, not some hypersexualized music video conquest, right? Because of the invention of the cell phone, the average age that our kids in this country see pornography for the first time is 8. And I talk to so many parents that are like, Chris, I'm going to have the talk with my kid this weekend, and I don't know what to say. I'm like, your kid is 17. You should have had that talk when they were 5. And it's not the talk, it's the conversations that are ongoing, right? We need to stop letting music and movies and the media raise
Social
our kids.
Media, right?
We need to raise our kids. And
this is true, right? It's just too much with the digital world. Like, I don't know how you make that go away, but certainly we can try to put borders or parameters on the content. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. We do a lot of stuff here. Of course, people know us for the tattoo removals and the tattoo cover-ups, because that was really the foundation that this organization was built on. But over the years of doing this work, I'm always looking for, how can I keep people out of this chair getting removals and cover-ups? How can I educate them on the front end, right?
Prevention, yeah.
So we have a team. We go into the schools. We go and speak to youth groups. We do all this free of charge because we want you know, I see a lot of people saying we got to save our kids. You're right. We do. We have to save our kids. We have to do it. We can't wait for someone else to do it. So we go into the schools. One of the biggest problems we see with, you know, when we talk to these victims and survivors that we work with, they tell us, oh, I was groomed via social media for 3 years.
By perpetrators on social media.
Yeah, and
targeting them.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, and it's bigger than just trafficking. We're talking about predators, pedophiles, all that stuff. We need to start having real conversations with our kids about what's going on social media. The answer is not, well, I'm just not going to give you any phone or tablets or laptops, because they're going to have access to it anyway, whether you give it to them or they get it through a friend or school. The key here is to really have conversations, regular conversations. I work 12 hours a day, but I go home every night for 2 hours and have dinner with my family.
Yes.
And talk about what's going on, talk about how their day is going,
right.
Talk about their problems, and, you know, and because of that, I'll tell you, because we do that and we've built that foundation of trust, our kids have brought us things. My oldest daughter is now 24. One day I'm sitting there watching a baseball game. She comes in with her cell phone, showing it to me. And she's like, Dad, I just got this text message from this boy, so-and-so. And it's a nude picture of this boy. And I'm like, okay. I said, you know, the key to that is my reaction. If I would have flipped out, she never would have brought anything to me again.
True.
But because we built this foundation of trust, she brought it to me. And I said, okay. I said, let me have your phone. I got rid of the picture on her phone, right? I took it and I went and I met with this kid and his parents because I knew him. And that wasn't a screaming, you know, I'm going to kill you, kind of thing. It was just I showed a lot of grace because that's what I had been given. So I extended this kid a lot of grace, but I wanted him to know that this can't happen. Not just with my daughter, with any other person, right? And I'll tell you, because of the way I handled it, my daughter showed, you know, there was a lot of trust built there. And she brought me other stuff. All three of my kids have brought me stuff over the time that I'm like, okay, let's dissect this problem. Let's take a look at this and let's figure this out.
Right.
There's been some that we've turned over to authorities because they were pedophiles and predators and
just coming through your kids' phones.
Just cell phones, social media messages. Yeah. My son was getting messages from someone in Australia that was posing as a 19-year-old girl and sending him messages on his Xbox Live account. That's another thing that parents don't think about is these video game chat rooms, right?
No.
And
I'm learning so much right now, Chris. Thank you, because
absolutely.
It's also your reaction, to your daughter that I think was so spot on, so that they feel like they can actually talk to you and not get in trouble. Yeah, you really gotta take it that way, because if your kid thinks that you're mad at them for bringing this to you, they're never going to bring it again. They'll just either delete it or they might send it to their friends. And we've had friends of our kids, because of the environment that we have built in our house, a lot of their friends will come to my wife and I and ask their tough questions that they're afraid to ask their parents or their problems. And there have been times where, we had kids come to us that were, 15, 16 years old and tell us about sexual assaults that happened, about pregnancies, about, drug issues, whatever. And then we've gone with them and talked with their parents because they were so terrified to do it. So it's, not that we are like perfect by any means. We've learned a lot. We've been blessed to learn a lot, and we continue to learn a lot. And you're in the trenches and you're helping kids, and that's what you're doing. I think this is just a lesson for everyone, and to also understand like social media is here. It's not going away. So how do we deal with it? How do we speak openly to our kids and handle it? Yeah, it's important. And like I said, it's the conversations. It's not the talk. It's got to be a regular thing, because, social media, these apps pop up every day. They pop up every day. And most especially, right around March 2020. Right. you know, like in 1 second. I was like, oh, she's on Kids Messenger. Now she's on, you know, and I also understand, like, a lot of parents are, well, they're exhausted or they're working and they're like, here's the iPad, here's the tablet, here's the phone. You know, we're all guilty of that.
Yeah.
But to really just let them have free reign is huge
Terrifying.
no.
Yeah.
Terrifying. Yeah.
I tell people all this all the time. I tell them this. We're all busy. We're all busy. No question, especially with the pandemic mess and everything. We've been working differently and all this stuff, right? But our number one job is raising our kids.
Right.
And if you don't do it, somebody else will.
Oh my goodness.
So,
right. So through education, what are you doing with the educational side of it? Like, how can we, I would love it if have you created some sort of educational piece or something that is easily, I don't know, purchased or accessible to where school systems can use it? Because I mean, I'm certainly sharing this video and, but how, you know, tell my audience about that side of it.
Yeah, we're doing some fundraising right now because this is a question I get all the time. We travel and we do events all the time, but I want to make this readily accessible to people for free. So right now we're raising some money to get some professional videos produced of our social media safety classes and other classes related to trafficking topics.
Great.
We're completely revamping our website because it hasn't been done in years, because it was never the focus. We're always too busy doing the work, right? So we're going to launch a whole new website at inc180.com soon, and it will have links free of charge where you can view the videos that we're going to produce once we get this fundraising done here in the next month or so, hopefully. Because, you know, I've never done the work of Inc 180 to make money. I've done it to make a difference.
You're doing it out of your heart to help kids and to help people.
I'll tell you, if I can keep one more kid or one more person out of this chair getting a cover up or removal, it's all worthwhile.
Yeah, Christina, yeah, you're bringing tears to my eyes because your heart is in this for the right reasons.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's heartbreaking. You know, you see these survivors come in here, you hear the stories, you hear the pain, you see it. You know, one of the things I say a lot of times, kind of jokingly, but not really, you know, here in our shop, we have hardwood floors, not carpet. And it's because we cry a lot. We cry with them. We cry after they leave, because it's frustrating. It's absolutely mind-boggling, the things that we hear, that no human being should have to endure any of this. And it's so preventable. So our work with the time that we have left on this earth is to make that difference and try to keep kids safe.
Sure. Well, God bless you, sir. You know, I think about the bubble I've lived in the 70s and 80s. It's like, oh, I was riding on my bike and I was enjoying a childhood. And that's what every child deserves and should have. So, you know, as much as we can do to jump in there as a parent, as a human being, and try to save a kid or help out. Operation Underground Railroad is a fantastic resource. You know, if anyone isn't aware of the work that Tim Ballard does yet, you know, I'll probably leave a link up, but how can somebody contribute to your fundraiser? Are you having a fundraiser or something?
Yeah, we are. We're trying to raise $10,000 to produce these videos professionally. So right now we're at about 5,000. So we're about halfway there. If people want to contribute, you can make a tax-deductible donation at inc180.com. We would greatly appreciate that. We got to keep our kids safe, y'all. So
we got to keep our kids safe. inc180.com.
Yes.
Chris Baker, sir, thank you.
Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure. And I thank Laura Beavers for telling me about you and about the work that you're doing, and God bless you, and keep safe. We'll
God bless you too. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.